this is a picture of your father,
Yeah.
Nate,
Yeah,
and your brother,
Yeah.
Percy, and
Yeah.
he had come back from World War
yeah,
I,
that's right. Yeah,
and he served with Sergeant York.
yeah.
Can you get that steady? Second?
Yeah, that's good.
And back on the farm, there was, you mentioned about this. This was your father's farm,
Yes.
a 50-acre field, and you could pick a pail of blackberries.
Blackberries and no time there.
And
I don't like to say that to be talking disparagingly about my grandfather, but I do like to talk about it to say how hard my father worked to clean that up.
your father cleaned this field up.
He cleaned the whole farm up, 200 acres. But at 7 or 8 years old, I was a quarter mile away from home in a 25-acre field with a little corn knife cutting wild carrots. That was on a mowed field after they grew up after haying, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. She's on now. Go ahead.
Well,
The wild carrots and
well, that was just a weed, and it was an annual. So cutting it, I'm not sure that did a lot of good. Talking about wild carrots, I can remember when they started putting carrots on the table, and I couldn't, it was a little hard for me to make the comparison between cutting them down and eating them on the table, but there are semi-annual crop, I guess, you get every other year, you know. But, oh, I guess that's about it, other than 7 or 8-year-old kids aren't work that hard now, you know. I guess I mentioned the other day, you know, I had a 2 or 3 acre field that I covered with you know what, with 2 little pair of calves and a sled not much bigger than a wheelbarrow. But I can remember keeping track of it and writing it down on the calendar somewhere when I got over the 200th load, you know.
steady work. Gets the
Oh,
job
yeah.
done.
Sundays and after school, and rain or snow sometimes, you know.
This is an interesting picture here too. Now this looks a lot like John, but to tell the truth, this is you,
Yeah, that's it.
and you're about maybe 3 or 4 somewhere in
that's
there,
right. So,
and Percy and Lois.
yeah, that picture's about 85 years old.
And so your father had this 200-acre farm from his father,
Yes,
and you decided to go off to the University of Connecticut.
yeah,
And we've heard about Prof. Garrigus
Yeah.
and so forth. But you learned a lot from your father working for him
that's
and working the farm.
yeah,
And you went and got this from the and a lot more. You got a lot more than this piece of paper from the University of Connecticut,
yeah.
and you put a lot more into it.
Well, some of that included working 50 hours a week, you know, and
50 hours a week at the university?
some of the time, yeah. We get up 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and sheep, lambs all come at one time, and you have your regular work, and you go in there, and there's 2 or 3 ewes lambing that need attention, or they get it whether they need it or not. And Joe Pritchard, the herdsman, has left me a list that this lamb needs bottle feeding because the mother isn't taking too good care of it. And the trouble with that was that I had a pretty good morning's work to do. I think something like grinding up 10 or 12 bushel of mangels or turnips, and sheep barn about 200 feet long on the end of the barn, quite a long trip back and forth, you know. And some of the time I'm a little late getting to breakfast too.
And you had a full load of classwork too. We talked the other day about your experiments on Mendel's theory of dominance.
Yeah.
And how you had to raise, what was it, fruit flies? You had to crossbreed them and see how the dominant factors came.
Yeah, but the thing about it that I thought, a lot of this stuff you read about and you're not sure, but if you spent an hour and a half counting, separating the fruit flies that have a cross in their eye and one that have a bar, at the end of it and it works out, then you're sure it's right.
And we found out that the dominant factors were what, three?
That's, I guess that is as old as genetics. A 3-to-1 Mendelian ratio is maybe the first rule of genetics that I know of. That's the first thing the prof ever told us. But you use it, you have, I think you have sex-related, one sex, I forget. I forget the terms, but there's phenotype and genotype, and that one is something to do with inheritance and one something to do with more direct, you know. And I've forgotten most of it.
I told Brian the other night, I hope I told him right, but we mentioned that what was it? It was an Angus without horns.
Black body.
Black body. Purebred, now purebred.
Yes, that's
okay, right. And that's an Angus. And then the other one's a Hereford.
Red body with horns and a white face.
And the dominant factors that will come out.
It's the white face, the black body, and the no horns. And it's so, it's very definite. Yeah, I guess as I mentioned to you, you could have 100 head of Herefords over here, 100 head of Angus over there, and in between you could have these crossbreds, and they're just as uniform as the purebreds. Of course, it's the second process where everything goes haywire, you know.
And you come out with all combinations.
Then you have horns on black bodies, which, you don't, the only way you get horns on black bodies is to crossbreed, you know.
And the secret of growing a purebred farm, which you did for Mr. Crocker, was to get the right cattle to look good, and you bred them together.
Yeah, you see that bull that I bought down in Sewickley, Pennsylvania for $2,500. It was a good move in the right spot at the right time, but I showed him, and I got an article I could show you, and I went to the judge, and he had bought a full brother to the bull, so he was interested too. And I was kind of feeling badly, and he said, Paul, forget about where he stood, take him home and use him. And then the day came when, we were selling $50 calves from a $2,500 bull, but later on, I paid $400 for this bull and sold his first calf for $1,000. And that's part of the purebred business. You go out and buy the 10 best cows you can find and the best sire. But as I mentioned, George Washington, if he'd had 10 kids, they wouldn't all have been George Washington. And so you get that point where you don't get as many good animals as you hope to, but that's part of genetics. They've got a background where they're not that good. And I think this is kind of important. I'd have an animal that was not as good as good enough to sell to a man that had. I could afford a better one, but I'd say to them, this animal I don't think we called it genes back then, but she has the breeding that even though she's not too good, she was capable of producing some of the stuff that's in her pedigree, you know. I kind of make the example of my brother was a 6-footer, And my son is taller than me, and he didn't have any children, but he could have had somebody my size too. It was in the you know, that's something I think it gets discouraging for even people that can afford it. They expect something to happen overnight, and it just doesn't, you know. We took, well, Alan Beaver was a good start. Then we imported a bull from England, and then we imported this somewhere there. Oh yeah, this bull from Canada, and Noalcom Emperor II. Anyway, after a few generations, it gets stronger and stronger, you know. See, let's see now, this is a daughter of Alan Beaver, and he was more for milk and type, but he did produce this Grand Champion. This was out of a family type in the milk and shorthorns mean, well, it's a dual purpose. And if they get too typey, they show a little bit too much of a beef character. But anyway, even though he didn't have as much milk and pedigree, this bull that was bought for type brought on to that cow produced this animal that both America named Watchess, and she, but he produced a cow that had great milk, and Alan B. Darrow produced one that had good type. So somewhere along the line, everything began to mesh, but it didn't happen overnight.
As we mentioned, the what was the bull that you paid $2,500 for?
Yeah, Alan B. Darrow.
And that was in 1924. That was like the first year on the job.
That's right. First full year. Yeah.
$2,500 was a lot of money.
Well, yeah, you could buy. Well, a poor farmer that couldn't afford it too much would go out and buy a bull for $200 or $300, but the top bulls were selling, you know, anywhere $500, $600, $700. And there wasn't many $1,000 bulls at all. Okay. Yep. Back around late 20s, we started to make milk records that got real good attention. But it took, that was only part of the deal. Once we showed up at Eastern States in Chicago with good type on top of the good records, that we were kind of in then. It was not unusual for the customer to write and say, we're writing you about a bull because we think you have the best herd in America. But the thing, if you got the best milk records and you got the best show records, best sale records come automatically.
In terms of the milk records, yeah. From 32 to 42, yeah. We talked, you had, let's see, 1% of the show records.
Yeah.
That was 1% of the whole.
One of the milk records. See, there was around 1,000 records, and we made 10. I think that would be 10%, if my mathematics.
1%.
1%. But we had 25% of the class leader records, which was 25 times our share. You know.
That's great.
Yeah. This animal still holds the junior two-year-old record of 14,000, which isn't a whole lot nowadays because there are another breeds, you know.
When you say 14,000, what is that?
Well, 14,000 pounds of milk in a year.
In 1938, this was a milk record that you had 25% of the class leaders in. And in 1938, you took the herd to Eastern States
Yes.
Exposition. And could you tell us what happened there?
Well, this is where we won that,
What was it?
what,
I believe there was 17 first places to be
that's
given
where
away.
we won the 10 first. A little interesting story about this cow. They were getting a little late, and the judge, the secretary of the breed, said to me, Paul, move watches right up there, will save a little time. And I said, well, that would be a little fat-headed on my part. And he said, well, if you don't think she's going to win grand champion, you're the only one in the fairgrounds that don't think so. And a good Asher breeder, who was manager of the herd that I was at one time, he said she was the best cow in the fairgrounds. And if you, Ashers are pretty hard to compete with. They come the nearest of any breed.
There's some interesting ribbons here,
Yeah, sure.
which is a grand champion here, and that's 1937.
Or premier exhibitor.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I want to look at some of the dates. There's 37 and 32 and 32. And I can't see that one over there. There are quite a few different years that you showed and brought these blue ribbons home.
Yeah.
That showed that you were building up, but in 38 was the major year where you won 10 of the 17 first place ribbons. And there were 140 other cows that had to divide
About 150 head of cattle, not cows, cattle.
the cattle. Yeah.
And they had 10, they had 7 first left for them. I think I should say, some people ask why the fairs are so important, but like for myself, I could write Irving Myers and McGregor, Iowa, who I sold a lot of cattle to, and the last one was the best bull in America at that time. I could say to him, this animal's so good, and brag about him, but if you go to a fair and the judge says, then that makes it authentic. That's the main reason for going to shows, so the people that buy it sight unseen have somebody else's, has a judge to go by, not the owner or manager who is
And that's
personally involved, you know.
that's put in print too in the
Oh,
journals,
sure,
so the people know who's.
Well, it comes out, you know, after Eastern States, all the prize winning is located there. Of course, on that 10 first, some of that includes a group, but the nice thing about group prizes, if you won more than your share first, then the group prizes almost automatically come.
You earned them though.
Yeah.
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 In 1942, you went to the Chicago International Sale, and there, how did it go selling the cattle there?
So
In 1942, how were the sale prices for your cattle?
that was the one that sold for an average of 400 in 1940.
The average of the whole sale was.
Was 400.
And how did Wachusett Meadow Farm
It
do?
was 800.
800.
And no, we topped every class that we had an animal in, like age class, whatever. We took topped that sale.
And you'd mentioned to me you'd sold a bull calf there for $1,000.05.
Yeah, that's right.
And at that time it was the highest record ever for the sale
At that
of
time,
a
yeah,
bull calf.
that's
And the interesting thing might be is, if you could tell us how you got to Chicago.
Well, of course, you just, it's you go in a freight car. One thing you do is a lot of mistakes, people have never done it, but you tie your animals very low because they're packed in there. If you don't, then what do they call it? The pecking order of animals, you know. Some animals get badly beat up if you don't tie them very low. If they're tied low, then you can tie them short. If you tie them high, they can't eat if you tie them low, and then they have a great range. When I was in Virginia, they wished on real mean ugly bull off onto me. Took 4 of them to bring him in, but we tied an inch rope around his neck and a halter, a rope down through his, round their horns and through the ring is the safest way to tie on the mean bull. Some people make the mistake and think they can just tie him by ring, but they can bring that ring right out. And if you got around the horns and through the ring and they pull, it isn't direct. You see, the nose will come up and kind of line up. And then, this has only happened once in my life, but he was so mean, I put a ring up on the ceiling and a half-inch rope and a snap, and when we fed him, we snapped it into his ring and then pulled his head off the ground so we could put the bucket under. Otherwise, he'd give the bucket real bad and hit you, and it could break a leg or something. But of course, that doesn't happen too often. It's have a bunk up over the animals, which is real warm and so forth. But this time, we made the mistake of, I don't know whether we wasn't able to get one, but if you get what you want when you're shipping cattle, you get a wood roof. We had a metal roof, and it was 10 below zero, and the freight going 60 miles an hour accumulated a lot of cold, you know. And those icicles were actually coming down off inside from this metal roof. And that's one thing that you learn if you're in the business long enough. He and Frank, who I went with, we knew better, but I think we got stuck. We couldn't, we just couldn't get anything other than that.
I understand that when you were you were right up there near the ceiling,
Yeah, that's
and these
pretty,
icicles were growing. This is from the cows breathing and
oh yeah.
all the moisture.
Oh, yeah,
The icicles are coming right down and falling off when they rattle.
I said to Frank, I've had enough of this. I got down now, and he paid I had a bet with him, and he paid his bet. Can I mention that?
Yeah, I guess you can.
No,
Yeah.
this calf right here, I bet him that he'd weigh 1,000 pounds at the Eastern States, and he bet me I think with a quart back in those days, and he wouldn't, and he did weigh 1,019 pounds. So this is 2 or 3 months later,
And you're in
and
this,
we're freezing to death.
you're in
you
this
know.
box car freezing to death.
And Frank opened up his trunk and he pulled out this quart and he says, well, I think it's about time I paid my bet.
So
And it came with a good
You're
time.
rattling along in the box car with the cattle and freezing and
Yeah,
yeah.
of course the cattle, with a metal roof, and if you have a bunk up overhead, it's a pretty warm place, you know. It isn't like a hotel room that they charge $100 for or anything like that.
I understood from the bouncing around too, the door got jarred open, so you
Yeah,
had a little more air than you needed.
Yeah, we had it just enough to let a hour in. We woke up and here's this door wide open, and at the end, one end you see would be a lot colder than the other, and I believe that was about as cold. I had a heavy coat on, and we had a fellow named Bob Cuddy that had worked for both Frank and I, and he was in Chicago working on the railroad, and he kept track of this car from the time it left New England. He knew just when it was going to get there. So he came in and said, no, you're today. But anyway.
He was under the weather.
Yeah, he was a little under the weather.
Yeah, yeah.
But he, these freight yards, you know, big freight yards like Chicago and Buffalo, and even, well, those two in particular, they're bigger. They're acres and acres, you know.
Switzerland.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's the other one. Oh, that's good.
Okay, so, is it? Maybe
No,
it
it's
is.
okay.
Mentally, he was able to get us out of the yard. I think he needed us a little physically, but anyway, that's beside the point. We went into this hotel, Harrison there in Chicago, which was kind of, wasn't the most, it was a decent hotel, but it's where the cattle people hung out pretty well. Of course, they had the stockyard inn too there. That was the, and radiator about yay high, and I still was frozen. And I had this heavy overcoat on, and the moisture that I had accumulated in the car in frost, once it got in where it was warm, when that frost thawed out, there was a puddle of water, not a big puddle, but there was a puddle of water that from that frost, from that coat that had thawed out. That's how, well, that's how cold it was, and that's how you accumulate moisture from the breath of the animals, you know. That one trip, when I went out there in 1922, one of the things you should know about when you when you get a barrel of water, you put something in like blocks of firewood or anything, will keep it from splashing. And so that time I came home to school, and Joe Pritchard, and the first thing I saw him, he said, guess what happened to me? And I said, what? He said, those sticks in the water was enough, had frozen down to the bottom. So when they put the water in, they didn't have this protection, and he woke up in the morning, and that barrel of water was empty from that, and the cattle were wet, and his bunk was wet, and of course,
It wasn't a smooth ride.
what's that?
These boxcars weren't a very smooth ride.
Oh, no. Well, no, that's part of the business. You sleep in back stalls. And,
What you were telling me the other day, the most comfortable chair in the world.
yeah, this is, you have a bag of grain that's a little bit, you know, about 2/3 full, and you sit on that and you lean up against a pile of grain and wiggle a little and so forth, and that's pretty comfortable. I don't know whether this would be interesting to you, but there was always a certain amount of danger in shipping cattle because there would be people that would break in on you. I had a friend that shipped cattle into Texas, and he got down into Kentucky, and they said, are you going back out and getting that car? And he said, they said, please don't, we'll call the police. They had a man killed in the back, and I was coming down from Greenfield to Springfield in New England, and we think of this stuff happening out west far, and I had a customer who's coming right along up there, and I sat there and I had a pitchfork there, and we had a little heart-to-heart talk, and he changed his mind. He had better well, because it was, he might have been bigger than I was, but I'm the one that had the fork.
And over the years at Wachusett Meadow Farm, you'd bought in cattle to build your stock up from England and Pennsylvania and Canada, and it did the breeding. And now that you had a good reputation and people wanted to buy your cattle, where did you sell cattle to?
Well, we had all over, you know, we had out of 24 states in the Union, all New England, Maryland, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Kansas City, and Texas, California, Oregon, and Washington, and Illinois, Ohio, Indiana. It seems sometimes it came a little bit in sections, but you add up, you know.
Well, word would pass from one to the other, and they'd know that it was good stock.
Yeah, it.
And trade journals help too. You had an
Oh
ad
yeah,
in there.
sure. Yeah, with your milk records published and your show records published, the rest came pretty easy.
I understand you sold not only in the United States, but you sold to South America.
Yeah, this is just one animal.
Okay.
This lady, this was during the Second World War. Her name was Miss German. But anyway, she just got out of Paris about 2 steps ahead of the Nazis and headed for America, and then she went back down to South America and stayed to supper with us and so forth. But that was a nice, you know. That's the only time. It's only one, but we did sell into South America. And that was because of her.
Into Canada too.
Oh yeah, Canada. We sold. Well, and Jacksons and the Gibsons, and we sold. We kind of bought. We would sell a sire there, and they'd breed it onto there, and then I would buy the get back, and they'd do the same, you know. And
They helped build the stock up.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. The health charts from state to state are important, but once you get out of the country, it gets 10 times more the tests you have to take and so forth. And